Good afternoon, Bristol Aggie community. We wanted to host another town hall meeting before we get back to school on Thursday, this Thursday, which will be in person for freshmen and seniors, and then virtual for sophomores and juniors. Before we get started, I just want to let everybody know that this presentation is being recorded. That way, for anybody who was not able to attend, will be able to see it at a later date. If we could just ask everybody to keep their questions to the topic that's addressed in the slide, we will address any other outstanding questions at the end of the slide. So if you could just ask the questions in the chat feature. With us today, myself, Kevin Bragg, I'm the principal. We have Mr. Higgins. I don't know if you want to say hello, Mr. Higgins. We have Superintendent Ms. Sands. I don't know if you want to say hello. We also have our tech director, Ms. Harwood, who is streaming us Facebook Live. We have another 20 or so guests there, as well as our special ed director, Mr. Lynn. So depending on the questions you have, each person may want to weigh in. I don't know if you want to add anything, Ms. Sands, before we get started.
I just want to thank everyone for joining us this evening. We are so excited to have all of the kids back with us. You should see, I know that you've been reading the papers. I know you see that teachers are struggling with this all across the Commonwealth, but I can tell you there is nothing but excitement going on as you see the pictures. These folks are really looking forward to having their kids in front of them again. And so thank you for joining us tonight, and we're looking forward to getting back to our work.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Sands. Mr. Higgins, is there anything you want to add?
I just wanted to echo what Ms. Sands, Superintendent Sands said by saying thank you for being here, and we really cannot wait for your kids to get back in school. I know I'm sure everyone's sick of hearing me talk, so kids' voices will be very appreciated.
Mr. Lynn, anything you want to add? You're good? All right. So just to kind of piggyback off what Ms. Sands just said, as you can see here in the pictures, I know the students got an extra 2 weeks of summer vacation, but that's certainly not been the case for our staff. There's been a lot of work to making sure that Thursday and for the next 170 days, or however long we're in this situation, is successful. So one of the things you're going to hear, just like we stressed back in the spring, is some patience and flexibility. Understand that this is a work in progress. This is a new situation for all of us. But please understand the amount of work that went into, creating plans that were both, rigorous for the students that are in person, as well as providing quality instruction and assessments to those students who opted for the virtual. So there was a lot of training each day. We had a schedule filled with teacher training, but we just wanted to make sure that, that was understood. Today's agenda, we'll be talking about the learning expectations for both hybrid and virtual learning. We're going to talk about guided studies and what that looks like. We'll talk about the schedules and the lunch schedule. In this link now, everybody has access to the working document for the fall reentry plan. So about a few weeks ago, we sent out the PDF version. With this link is the Google Docs version, which means that it's continually updated. You actually might be opening the document at times and seeing us type directly into that. So just understand that it's consistently in draft form as we receive new DESE guidance. Obviously, any changes that are going to be made to the plan, we will certainly communicate those changes out to our community. One of the things that you may have noticed or have seen, as other places in the country have already gone, back to school in their remote situations, that there are some online outages. That should say outages, not shortages. Online outages, so please be patient. Understand that, a lot of people in the country are going to be streaming. At the same time, we're going to be streaming. So it's just, this process is going to require us to be very patient and flexible throughout the process. We want to talk about what the first day of school looks like, especially as students need to return their old books. So we'll talk about that. And then we also just want to reiterate a lot of the things that we talked about in previous presentations regarding transportation. We know a lot of people have questions about that, whether it's bus routes, pickups, or drop-offs, parent pickups and drop-offs. And then one of the things I did want to note is that previously we had discussed that if a holiday fell on a Monday, that we would be observing that on a Wednesday. I just want to let you know that's currently our plan. However, there are some logistics that we're having some issues with, especially with our students connecting buses that may not be available. So we'll definitely keep you posted, but we did want to let you know that there's been a slight change. There may be a slight change, I should say, to that Wednesday not being virtual and us observing it. So we'll stay tuned for more information. And then we'll also talk about dining services and assigned seating. One of the things I think as we, a lot of conversation with the staff, and we've really internally looked deep within ourselves and try to figure out how can we put on the best classroom experience for our students, both in person and virtual. And again, this is something that is absolutely brand new for us, trying to think in modes about how can we do our Bristol Aggie agricultural education for those at home, as well as providing, safe measures for the students in person. And we started really reflecting on our core values. And we started looking at, in order for this to be successful, I think all students, everybody in our community really has to understand what these core values are. Last year, they were approved. We went through the staff and, we came up with these core values. We believe that, more than being able to write an essay or climb a tree or whatever it is, these are the things that we felt were very important for students in and out of the classroom. And, just talking with parents, especially every year in our freshman academy and freshman orientation, we talk about respect and integrity, and talk about the Bristol Aggie way. And if you remember, whether you're a freshman parent this year or you're a senior parent, you remember us having these conversations that Bristol Aggie is different. And in order for us to keep that, that high expectation, keep our reputation as solid as it is, we have to make sure that we continue to be who we are. And a lot of our success is dependent upon, the respect and the expectation that we're putting in the work. So we expect our students to also put in the work, and also our families. It does take a village, and you're going to hear that a few times throughout this presentation, that we are going to be relying on you to help us out. Integrity in terms of us giving assignments at home or assessments, and students are taking tests. We're expecting them to do what's right and, follow, the same guidelines that you would be whether you were in person or in virtual. So just really looking at our core values and perseverance and community, really understanding that you don't necessarily have to be successful every time, but when you're faced with failure, that we help you create solutions and we work through those failures together as a community. We want to understand that, we are building something here for the first time ever for Bristol Aggie, that we are going to be having some difficulties in certain areas. And we understand that, but as a community, we're going to work to problem solve and engage multiple communities, whether it be teachers, parents, students, to problem solve. And, we want to hear everybody's perspectives as we go through the process. We understand that, Thursday might be a little bit different than what we're used to, but we're going to do everything we can to try to work together as a community and get through this as best as possible. And then pride. I think, this is really where it comes back to, and that, we want to demonstrate that Bristol Aggie pride that's been, in spirit for over 100 years. And we want to continue to build that legacy. And so, we want to celebrate your successes, but with that, we got to make sure that people understand that the virtual learning that's taken place this fall is very, very different than the virtual learning that took place in the spring. This isn't a time to take time off. We're expecting to hold our students to the same standards, very similar standards, I should say, than, before COVID. So we're relying on students to demonstrate these core values, especially when it comes time to assessments. We understand that, or please understand that if you're cheating, you're only cheating yourself, then that creates even larger learning gaps, and it doesn't allow teachers to really get back and understand that if they need to reteach a theme or an element or a topic. So really making sure that they're using, their teachers, whether it's virtual and virtual one-on-one or in-person one-on-one. We just want to make sure that you really continue to challenge yourself. And if you want to, coast and you just don't want to put in the work anymore, then, anytime we talk to students and why they chose Bristol Aggie, it was never because they wanted the easy way out. Every time we talk to students, it's because they want to keep challenging themselves, and they understand that, being here is a privilege. We had 420 applicants this year for 120 seats. So we expect you to continue to challenge yourself daily and, make sure that you represent Bristol Aggie and, you keep our core values kind of centered to what's happening each day. So we wanted to start off with some virtual learning expectations. And I guess as we go through this, just a reminder that if you have any questions, Mr. Higgins is monitoring the chat. So if there are any questions that pop up, again, just keep it to the slides that we're talking about. So if you have any questions about virtual learning expectations, this would be the time to talk about it between this and the other slides. And again, Mr. Higgins will be responding to those. So one of the things we wanted to make clear is that attendance will be taken for each class. So even, for instance, on Thursdays, our first day of school, in person for freshmen and seniors, and also virtual attendance will be taken for the sophomores and juniors. So the first day of school is for everybody on Thursday, and in person for freshmen and seniors, and then virtually sophomores and juniors. We will be taking attendance every period and every class, so in every morning as well. So we'll be taking school attendance as well as class attendance. So any student that does not attend their class either virtually or in person will be marked absent. For those students that are virtual students, they'll be virtual absent. And then for those students that are in person, will be in-person absent. And, I can't stress this enough that the expectations have increased dramatically. And our students will be expected to participate in daily learning activities as if they were in person. Under this virtual learning, our teachers will be contacting students every day. Every day they will be starting the day, each class, talking to their students, giving what the expectation is every single day. Parents, please check PowerSchool often. If you see anything that needs to be addressed, please reach out to those teachers as soon as possible. And if you're not getting a response at that point, then please notify administration. One of the things we do want to make sure that everybody understands is if a student is virtual and signs on and does not participate, the student will be considered skipping class and will lose credit for the day and assignment. The student will not be able to make up the assignment due to skipping class. Additional consequences such as Saturday attention may apply. This is, for instance, if a student thinks that they're just signing on to the Google Meet and then we'll go back to sleep at that point. So we are expecting our students to be engaged from 8:10 to 2:30. Hold on one second here. From 8:10 to 2:30, Monday through Friday. So there is no days off. There is no time off. We're expecting our students to be students for the entire school day, just like anything else. In order to participate in each class, the student may ask you to comment, show video, demonstrate something, or whatever it is, depending on what's going on. The teachers will be training our students on how to pin screens side by side. So students will be able to see the Google Meet and have that screen pinned, as well as the notes that the teacher is describing. So that way it can help students at home. We want to stress that being present during class, not just be in attendance. In order for this to be successful, we do need to hear from the students virtually. They need to be a part of that classroom community. We have been training our staff in the last 2 weeks about exercises on how to do that. We stress social emotional learning. It's important, especially in this case, that teachers do not have those built relationships, have not had the opportunity to build those relationships with our students. So being present in class and participating and commenting is going to be essential for us to build that classroom community. So, we want to make sure we reiterate over and over again, it definitely takes a village. We're asking parents to continue your involvement. We're looking for probably a minimum of hour per day for those students that are virtual, checking in with them and saying, okay, what did you learn today? What's due tomorrow? That kind of stuff. So if, we're not asking parents to be homeschooling students, we're certainly going to be doing that from 8:10 to 2:30. But just the fact that, this is a new process for us. And if you can continue to kind of stay involved and check in with your students and your child, just making sure that they're on track, because we want to make sure that students are not slipping through the crack. And again, this is a new process for all of us. And the more that we work together, the better support that we can build for your child. So in-person learning, anytime a student goes outside the bathroom, there will be these QR codes. And this is anytime a student uses the bathroom, even like, for instance, in the morning, if you guys needed to use the bathroom, you would see this QR code in the bathroom and you have to use it. The reason is for contact tracing. We want to make sure we know that who used the facility, just in case somebody was getting sick or was sick and we needed to contact trace. So anytime you use a facility, anytime you leave the classroom, there is this QR code for all students. So you will see this posted in every classroom, every space in the cafeteria, the library. It's posted on every bathroom door as well in Gilbert Hall. So, we really want to stress that you are using this in order to help with contact tracing. Another thing that has kind of come up, and a couple of parents have reached out and asked us what is our policy on face masks and displaying controversial message. What we will say is that we are putting 100%, if there was such a thing as more than 100%, then that's what we're doing in our focus into teaching and learning. Please come with a mindset to learn and work. Please keep any political messages or anything like that outside the classroom. Again, with everything else that's going on, we are honestly just trying to provide a learning environment that is conducive to learning, to both in-person and virtual. So we're just asking people, just to keep things simple. We purchased these masks, as you can see here, that allow the students to see our face. So it is something a little different than what we're used to, but if this is what works for students, then it is something we're going to use if it's a platform that works for them. So again, we're jumping through every hoop. We're leaving no stone unturned here to try to make sure that this is successful. We understand we're going to meet some challenges, but if we can just keep those distractions, again, we rather focus our time and energy to support teachers and support students with some of the difficulties that may be happening, rather than us chasing down, face masks, this kid said this, or this happened, So again, if you could just try to keep things simple for us. In terms of discipline, for the students that are in person, we're only here 40% of the time, or you're here only 40% of the time that you're used to. So please use every minute. We're expecting our students to be laser focused in their classroom and expecting them to be right on point. There really isn't enough time in the day, especially with our face masks and face mask breaks and cafeteria lunch being extended. There really isn't time for shenanigans. So we are expecting students to honestly be, whether they're virtual or in person, to be laser focused and be right in the money, expecting to learn and be engaged and be challenged in the moment. So one of the things we did want to share, which is a benefit that students didn't have access to, is that if you are sick or you're feeling symptomatic, and we'll talk about those, you're feeling some type of the COVID symptoms or just a common cold or whatever it is that you're just not feeling well. One of the luxuries with this scenario is that you are able to join your class through the Google Meet. So in that scenario, you wouldn't be marked absent, you would be marked virtually present, which is a huge benefit. I know some students suffer from, some illnesses that doesn't allow them to always get to school. But in this situation, this is a benefit from our scenario, that we are able to house those students, so those students are able to and join the Google Meet and be marked present. Let me see. Are there any questions or anything that needs to be addressed, Mr. Higgins? Or are you doing a pretty good job there? You're good to go? All right, great. Thank you. So just to reiterate the schedule for hybrid, again, Mondays and Thursdays, freshmen and seniors in person, Tuesdays and Fridays, sophomores and juniors in person, Wednesday, full distance learning following the schedule. So they're following their A-week schedule. This will be, everybody will be remote. All of our teachers will be remote. This is a date for us to allow to deep clean the building. One of the things we did want to address, and this is a change, if it's raining outside or the weather is poor, we'll have mass breaks will occur inside the classroom. The classroom windows will be opened. No students will be able to leave their seat. They will need to stay face front. The students will be able to relax their masks there for 10 minutes. So we did want to note that that was a change. In the past, we did say it was going to happen in the gym, but unfortunately we weren't able to get everybody in there in the amount of time and have the mask breaks. It just made more sense and less of a challenge to do it inside the classroom. Our live class is going to be recorded. Yes. Recorded? No, I don't believe they are. We're not recording any of the classes, the live classes, I don't believe. So this is what a typical class would look like in the academics. So again, on Mondays and Thursdays, it's more business as usual in person. For the remote, this is what will happen. They'll take attendance. They'll go over their lessons and assignments on Google Classroom. They'll talk to you about your guided study, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. They'll do some check-ins and then pre-recorded lessons if they're not doing a guided study. Pretty much every class will start with them going over the expectations for the lesson. Then they'll get into the lesson, and before they leave that lesson, they're going to go over the expectations for the lesson and then also the expectations for the next class, so everybody is aware. This is what a typical VOAG schedule will look like. As you can see here, I used Mr. Bastarash and Ms. Boulay. So this is a Monday and Thursday schedule at the top. So, Ms. Boulay will be working with exploratory because the freshmen will be in. Mr. Bastarash will meet with his sophomore major from 8:10 to 8:25. He'll do attendance, discuss their expectations, what their activity will be that day, go over most likely the guided study. The students will work on their guided study from 8:25 to 9:40. And then the sophomore related, we'll have Ms. Boulay, 9:50 to 10:05. She's going to explain what those expectations are, what the plan is for the guided study. Those students will work for the next 25 minutes on the guided study, and so on and so forth. So they would be experiencing that. And then, just to stay consistent with the sophomores, and then fourth period, they would go into their academic classes and have a similar format. They would take attendance, describe expectations. The teacher may have a 40-minute lesson prepared and they would be live 40 minutes, or it may be like, if it's a math class, they may say, all right, we're going to work on these 6 problems. I'm going to show you how to do it. And you have the last 20 minutes to work on it. And so this is the scenario for each class. Every period will start off with teachers taking attendance in every single class. Please note that the major classes, it won't be like, say, for instance, the senior major, the virtual attendance will happen at 12:15, but not 6th period and 7th period. So they won't take attendance every period. It would just be for that class, not necessarily the period. So junior major, they take attendance at 12:15 to 12:30, talk about their expectations. They do the guided study probably 12:30 to 2:30. Maybe at that time at 2:15, the teacher will come back, find out how they did, check in again, and then talk about what's due the following day. I see somebody asked the question, how is a mask break in the classroom safe during any time raining or not? As long as the students are facing in the same direction, and the windows are open and the doors are open and there's a flow of air and nobody is actually breathing on anybody's face, eyes, mouth, there's no way of contracting the virus by keeping everybody in the same direction. So. As you can see here, we're stressing the point of attendance. So yes, we will be taking attendance both in person and virtual. We did want to make note that there is a change to the PE schedule that was previously reported. Previously, the virtual days were going to have the PE teachers take in attendance. That's no longer the case because we wanted to try to make sure that all of the teachers touch base with all of their kids each day, and they're going to be taking attendance. So this is the plan for attendance for, well, at least the first quarter, as long as we're in hybrid. So the freshmen will have attendance Tuesday, second period at 9 o'clock. Remember, this is like the second period of exploratory. So, and then the same thing, sophomores will have a Monday, second period at 9 o'clock. This is the second period of major during their time. And then what juniors and seniors will have it on Wednesday, which is the full virtual day. Juniors will have its sixth period. Seniors will have its seventh period. So that's when Mr. Pulaski and our other PE teacher, our new PE teacher, Ms. Garabedian, will be signing in virtually. So all PE will be done virtually. None of it will be done in person. For the meantime, we are using the gym right now as both classroom spaces. So we really don't have an opportunity to host gym on site at this time. So the first day of school schedule, like we talked about this a little bit in the beginning. What we're going to do for book returns is on Thursday, September 17th, seniors are going to go to the gym between 8:10 and 8:20 to drop off their books by subject. So for instance, the seniors are going to go in and they're going to see their junior teachers in there. So they might see Mr. Surdy physics, and then they would drop off their physics book. They might see, you know, Miss Zerly English, and they'll drop off their English book with Miss Zerly there. And then after, we'll give those books back to the teachers and making sure that everybody return their books. If not, then we'll you know, ask the families to pay for them if they lost them, and so on and so forth. But that's the plan for the seniors. So they'll drop off the books right in the beginning of the day. And then same thing for Friday for the sophomores and juniors. The juniors will do it first in the gym. They'll go into the gym, same situation, 8:10 to 8:20, drop off all their books. There will be tables labeled with every department and teacher. And then same thing for the sophomores. Once they return from their majors and related, then they'll come in 11:25 after lunch and drop off their books, and then they will report to their class. Nobody has gym on Friday, so that shouldn't be an issue. Do we immediately head to the gym, or first period teacher brings us there? You're going to first go to the gym. They're going to take attendance. Excuse me. You're going to first go to your class. They're going to take attendance, and then they're going to dismiss you there. Okay. You may have heard from your teachers already. Many of them I would say probably 95% or more have already sent out their Google Classroom invites to all the students. We have made a couple of changes to a few schedules, so you may have received some extra ones, but in some cases, teachers are already assigned seats. That way it will help. That will be your assigned seat from, well, until further notice. But definitely check your email for more information about Google Classroom and some of the expectations. I know a lot of teachers already sent out their syllabus. Many families have already signed the syllabus. I do want to make sure that we understand that you are acknowledging the syllabus. It's not necessarily that the parents are agreeing to the expectations, but acknowledging what the expectation is. This year, we are asking families to sign the syllabus through a Google form, again, to limit paper. You'll be asked to view the syllabus in one format and then probably click and sign a Google form that you acknowledge what the expectations are. And so this year, probably more than ever, those expectations and understanding what the expectation is probably most important. All right, so. Okay. So student drivers, the parking lot has been newly paved. Ms. Dias has emailed you your parking spot. If you haven't received the email, check the email that Ms. Dias sent out on yesterday, September 14th. So please park in your spots. We are not moving any spots. There are no, I want to park next to my friend. These are your parking spots until further notice. So parking is limited. So please park in your designated area. So one of the things we wanted to talk about was our guided study expectations. And we talked a lot about this, especially in our virtual learning days or our off days. In order for us to meet the structured learning time by the state, we needed to make sure that we incorporated these guided studies, independent studies, type of assignments. From the DESE and the guidance, it says that in order for us to count our virtual days as time on learning, the students needed to have this structured learning time that was directly correlated to directly linked to our standards. They provided evidence of learning each week. There were rubrics. So this is a lot of our staff has been working really hard on these guided studies to making sure that students have meaningful assignments when they're working outside of the classroom, that physically in the classroom. And then they're also going to be developing these. It's not a finished product probably by Thursday, but it's a work in progress that we hope to continue to build. They'll definitely have something for the next month or so that they're working on, but we're going to continue to build on it. Understand this is a brand new endeavor for our teachers as well, and trying to put all this together is a lot of work. But we're doing the best we can to making sure that we create these meaningful assignments that are engaging our students. And based on, the feedback we received last spring, some parents felt that the assignments they were getting, they weren't enough. They weren't comprehensive enough. And we're hoping that these guided studies are that. And honestly, if they're not what they're meeting your expectations for quarter one, then hopefully we could build on that from quarter one and build something more rigorous for quarter two. In the email we're going to be sending out after this presentation to kind of provide a summary as we normally do, there is this guided study. You might see things like IS letter, that was an independent study. We've moved that language to a guided study. So it's a letter to parents informing you of our expectations. We're going to talk about some format and grading. There are some basic guidelines that's coming from the school. You'll see it school-wide, whether you're in English and you're doing it in science or you're doing it in animal science or arbor. There are going to be specific components to this rubric that are school-wide, and then others will be content-specific. So the courses that are implemented the guided study, all of our vocational agricultural programs are. Every program is involved in this, and the reason being is because we are dedicating both teachers to providing the hands-on learning for our students in person to make sure that they're safe. That is certainly our priority in making sure that students are safe on site and making sure that they're 6 feet apart. And we wanted to make sure we dedicated a lot of time. So in order for us to do that, then we had to create these guided studies to provide students with assignments that were not in front of us. The academics, all the English courses, 9 through 12, all the history courses as well, and then only science, electronics, and programming with Mr. Johnson have that. So these are the courses that if you know that you're in an English class, you're going to have a guided study. In all your history classes, you're going to have a guided study. And so you're probably asking what's happening in math and all those other science classes. They're actually going to be meeting with the students live virtually. So they're going to be meeting with those students. So say, for instance, sophomores and juniors on Thursday, they're going to be hosting a lesson throughout that whole period, or recorded lessons that are going to be throughout that whole period. And the same thing with science. They wanted to meet with their students during those periods. So there will not be a guided study in those. We kind of just wanted to talk about how we came to guided study and why we chose that and how it prepares students. It allows students to work at their own pace, which is always a benefit. Again, that's another opportunity for us to kind of hopefully ensure that parents, that they have these guided study projects. especially on their virtual days. So making sure that you're checking in with them, making sure that they're meeting those expectations from the week. And again, the teachers are going to describe what's due each week. So if you could just make sure that you're acknowledging what's going on and checking in with them. You know, a lot of the things that we're able to do through this guided study, which is very beneficial, is stuff that we wouldn't be able to get to in the classroom. We're now allowing students to kind of further their education. This is an extension of learning. It allows for more conferencing between in-person and virtual. So teachers are going to be setting up times throughout the guided study so they can meet with them either in person or virtual and provide that one-to-one feedback. Independent studies provide useful practice in the process of learning. It allows students to really dig deep in their learning, you know, reflect on what's going on. You're going to see a lot of teachers implementing a lot of reflective practice, pair editing, you know, holding students accountable for one another. Guided study, you know, meets the convenience needs of many learners and the fact that it offers students a lot of different opportunities. It allows students to develop self-motivation, concentration, and discipline. And you know, one of the best skills is being able to identify a problem, gather some data, and take responsibility for conclusions, and really putting that stuff all together, really developing a project from beginning to end, seeing some problems through, you know, building some of that perseverance, our core values, and really looking at the data as a whole and understanding how this project supports their overall objective of learning. So these three elements are the basic expectations that you will see school-wide. Meeting attendance, as you can see, is a high focus for us throughout this presentation and others, that students, in order to be able to meet the highest expectation, is that they are meeting 100% of the time. That is exceeding the expectation. That they are passing things in on a timeline. It's not just that they're blowing it off until the end of the quarter and then want to submit all their assignments in the last minute. So as you can see here, we're expecting students to be doing things weekly. Again, it doesn't allow for students to really check out and just say, oh, you know, I'll submit that before it's due. I'm always good to submit it at the end. Nope, the expectation is clear right from the beginning that each week, each day, there is an assignment to be completed. So we're expecting that. And that in order for you to meet the highest level, the exceeding expectation, you need to make sure that you require all the elements of the guided study. You can't just pick and choose. It's not a la carte, like, oh yeah, I'll do this assignment really well, and then I'll do that assignment. I don't feel like doing a presentation, or I don't feel like doing the research. I'm not going to do that. So the expectation is that you are engaged from day one all the way until the end. And so in order to meet that expectation, again, you have to have all the elements included in the guided study. As you can see here, this is just a sample that we gave our teachers. So you may see something similar to this, is that they're going to provide this type of outline, something similar to this, and say, okay, this is what's due on the 25th. This is what's due on the 2nd. Also on the 2nd, this is when I'm going to meet with you and provide one-to-one feedback. So this is an opportunity for us to provide some of those clear expectations. This would be essential for those parents to help weigh in to making sure you know what to expect and how you can help. But this is a mixture of in-person and virtual streaming, this guided study. So students, teachers may talk about some of the expectations in person and then expect them to do some of the stuff virtually. As we discussed when we first talked about this, this is an ongoing project for us. Please exercise some patience and flexibility. You know, we are doing the best we can to provide these, you know, essentially the teachers are preparing 2 lessons all the time because they're preparing for the students that are in front of them every day. And again, in this scenario, especially our VOAGs, they're teaching double. You know, before, like say Mr. Bastarash only taught sophomores and seniors. This year he's teaching 9, 10, 11, and 12 because he's assisting Miss Boulay in all of her classes. So we're taking on additional responsibilities to try to make this school year successful. So please bear with us. We're doing the best we can. Please understand that we're doing everything with best intentions, and that it's a learning process. So we understand there is no replicating what we do live in the classroom. You know, there's that, if that was the case, we wouldn't be building a $104 million project, construction project across the street if we could do everything we do live. So, you know, we're doing the best we can. We want to make sure we provide our students with as much challenging and rigorous instruction as possible. But we are working to provide the best type of education experience under the circumstances. So this is what we discussed in our last meeting as well, and we'll kind of just highlight that. You know, we are committed, and we had this conversation with our staff today about traveling. You know, it is everybody's responsibility. It's everybody's responsibility in the Bristol Aggie community to keep one another safe. You know, I was telling the staff today that my wife and I go to Rhode Island pretty much every weekend, and up until this year, you know, that was our destination. We go to Bristol, Warren, Newport, whatever, and we haven't been back since March because, you know, we're committed to doing what's right. It's the little decisions day to day that we have to make some sacrifices in order for us to continue, you know, continue to be with one another. We understand that many districts have opted to go virtual, and we understand that. We felt the need to have our students in front of us because we know we can't replicate what we do virtually. And so in order for us to do that, you know, our staff has made a commitment, and we're asking our students and our parents to do the same. Please practice social distancing, wearing face masks, staying, you know, keeping your hands sanitized, pre-screening, please pre-screen. Again, if you do have some of those symptoms, please stay home, log in through Google Meet, and you can be marked virtually present. We do have an isolation room in B3 that has been set up for 5 spots if students are feeling sick. We have a COVID bathroom that the nurse will let you in. Again, if a student is feeling sick, the nurse will clear the hallway, making sure everybody is safe, and then walk the student and escort them down to the bathroom. And obviously, if that is happening, we will notify parents to come pick up the students. And between the local Board of Health and the superintendent, they will determine the risks and closures. I know people are probably seeing like, oh, you know, today Fall River is yellow and New Bedford might be red. You know, day to day, it is on us to kind of look for not just day to day, but probably over a 2-week period to see what that looks like. And between Ms. Sands, our superintendent, and the local Board of Health, they will make a shared decision on what is best to keep our students safe. And if that means a temporary closure for 2 weeks or so, that's what will happen. I don't know if you want to add anything, Ms. Sands, to that.
Sure. So I just want everyone to know that this has become another full-time job, and I have actually 3-ring binders full of what to do what I should be looking at. I'm on websites, and I'm on the mass.gov, the COVID-19 websites, and I want to emphasize that if you go on and look, you may see a town in red, but that doesn't mean that we're going to shut down the school, because we have very strict guidelines how I'm going to evaluate which towns for how long, as Mr. Braga said. So, and we have very strict protocols in place for issues. If a student doesn't feel well at home, if a student doesn't feel well on the bus, if a student doesn't feel well at school, if a staff member doesn't feel well at home, if a staff member doesn't feel well at school. We have very strict guidelines that the Department of Health and I will follow to keep everyone as safe as we possibly can. And that is our guarantee, is that we will do our very best to keep our whole community as safe as we can.
Does anybody have any questions? Maybe Ms. Sands can answer these specific Okay. Just to give everybody a heads up, you might hear the fire alarm. They're testing here to make sure that we're good to go for Thursday. So don't panic. They're just testing the fire alarm. Just another day. So it looks like we don't have any questions. So thank you, Ms. Sands. So we did want to just reiterate our transportation services. Usually Mr. Costa monitors this part. He wasn't able to meet with us today, but just understanding that in order to ride the bus, students need to have a mask on at the bus stop. So from bus stop to bus stop, students will be wearing masks. The students are going to be asked if they were pre-screened at home. The bus driver may assign you to a seat. You're going to have that assigned seat until further notice. So whatever seat you have on day one, you'll have until further notice, again, to help us with contact tracing. We do want to let you know that we provided this little graphic here at the bottom. That's the way that the buses are going to be for pickups. So if you know what bus you're on, you kind of understand where you need to be. We are also going to be on site, Mr. Higgins, myself, Mr. Costa, and a lot of hands on deck to making sure that students board the buses correct in the first few days. So we'll be out there to help everybody get on the correct bus. Again, just in terms of the bus, making sure that the safety requirements, we have all the windows open, there'll be hand sanitizer available, students are wearing their masks, and so on and so forth. So we are also in the process. I know Mr. Costa, our business manager, met with the transportation company today to talk about routine cleaning and sanitation happening when students are dropped off at the school, and doing some sanitation here, and then when they drop off the students at home and doing some sanitation and cleaning at their facility. We just wanted to kind of reiterate that please be mindful, especially of the communities that are not in person. So for instance, I know Dighton Rehoboth has chose to go virtual. So anybody living in those communities, please understand that you still need to get to Dighton Rehoboth High School. That's where the Bristol Aggie bus will pick you up. I'm not sure on the other districts, but please be mindful that if your sending district is virtual, they may not be picking you up in front of your school. Instead, it's where the Bristol Aggie bus is picking you up. So please be mindful of what your sending district is doing, and understand if you have transportation to the meeting spot where the Bristol Aggie bus will pick you up. So if you have any questions about that, you can contact Mr. Costa and he can help you out, but you should know where your bus stops are at this point. You can also find your bus stops on the website. So as you can see here, if anybody has been driving around, has seen the tables out front, we were able to get the tent up last week. So again, just like the transportation and in classrooms, there'll be assigned seating in the dining services as well. Mr. Higgins, Mr. Lee, who is the food service manager, and I will be at lunch for the first week of school or more to assist with seat assignments. We will allow students to pick their own seats, but once they pick that seat, we will go around and making sure that students stay in their seats and pick their seats for the first term. So I know some families were wondering, especially for freshman students, like, oh, how about if they make friends, will they be able to change? And yes, and so we'll be able to do that the second term. But for the first term, we just want to make sure that we're keeping people as safe as possible. So we're going to just assign seats for the first term, and then we'll readdress that again in quarter two. So trash and dish return, students outside will not have to come inside to dispose of their trash. There will be a place outside for busing, the bus service for emptying their dishes and trash. So anybody that is picking their seat under the tent, you can get rid of your trash outside and not have to come into the building. There will be table dismissal to get your lunch. So students will come into the lunch on Thursday and Friday, and you will sit at a seat, and then we will dismiss by table to get your food. As you can imagine, a line of 6 feet apart would probably take you from the cafeteria to Gilbert Hall. So we're going to do table by table dismissal. If we need to extend the lunches, we will those days. This is just a way for us to be able to understand. We think with 45 minutes at lunch, we should be able to get through everything we need to do. And that will also be table by table dismissal for the end of lunch as well. So anybody, as we leave, we'll say, all right, this table, you can go get up, throw away your trash, and then you can go back to class. And then any student who is on the bus and would like breakfast will get dropped off in front of Keith Hall. You just have to notify your bus driver that you are looking to go to breakfast. Everybody else that is not going to breakfast will stay on their buses until 7:50. So this is something brand new. You're actually going to get an email with more details from Mr. Costa. So the USDA has extended free breakfast and free lunch program to all students until further notice. So any student that wants breakfast or lunch will have free lunch until further notice. So even though we did process the free and reduced lunch forms, those are great to have on file. So that way we don't know how long until they're going to keep this program available. You would just continue those services. We do want to make note, though, that students will need their school ID in order to process lunch. I know Mr. Higgins has been reaching out to the freshman families to get those photos in for the photo ID. So if you have not emailed Mr. Higgins those photos, please do so immediately so we can print those IDs. So just stay tuned for more information. Stay tuned for more information on those benefits. Mr. Costa is going to be sending out an email, I believe, this evening. So pick up and drop off, morning drop off buses, in and out of county buses will continue to drop off in their locations. So out of county will drop off their students in the front of Gilbert Hall. If you are on those buses, we're going to direct you to the gym. That's where you're going to sit in the gym class. And the gym on those tables until 7:50 until you can get to your classes. Student drivers, you're going to stay in your vehicles until 7:50. And at 7:50, we'll allow you to come into the building. For the most part, you're going to come in next to Mrs. Savage's room there, which is the parking lot behind Gilbert Hall. Parent drop-offs will be between 7:15 and 8:10. You can use Gilbert Hall. Again, any of those students that are dropped off in front of Gilbert Hall before 7:50 will be asked to go into the cafeteria, not the cafeteria, the gymnasium. That's where they'll go until 7:50, until we dismiss them to class. One of the things we want to stress is afternoon pickup. This is something that's really different for us. Buses and student drivers will be dismissed at 2:30. So when we dismiss students at 2:30, any of the students that are taking buses and student drivers will be able to be dismissed at 2:30. They're going to have to be able to leave the site. So student drivers will be able to leave. All the buses will be able to leave. And then parents, once you see all of those buses leaving, we just don't have place in the facility to host you. Then you can come on campus and pick up your students. We'll release the students from their classes once the buses and all the students are off the campus. So we're thinking around 2:35, 2:40 or so. The overflow parking is in the hayfield. Once you see the buses passing over the Berkeley Bridge, that's your cue to know when you can come on campus. So the buses, then the students will leave on the student drivers. And then we have an idea of about 20 or 30 parents are picking up students each day. So that's why we can't host all of those students, all those vehicles on campus until all the student drivers and all the buses leave at that point. So I don't know if anybody, does my son use a student ID from last year? Yes. Does anybody have any questions about pickup and drop off locations and times? Okay, great. As you can see here, this is a bigger image. Mr. Higgins took a drone shot and put this all in here. So, oops, I'm sorry about that. If you're on bus 2, you're right outside here. If you're bus 5, you're right in the front. So just knowing what bus you're on will help you with your pickups. Again, this is the overflow lot here, Keith Hall, the hayfield. So wait at least until 2:35 until you start seeing the buses come down Center Street. Once you see all the buses come by, then you know that you're safe. With 9 buses in total, but some of them will be taking a left and going in the other direction. But just please be mindful not to enter Gilbert Hall before 2:35. Please do not enter Gilbert Hall before 2:35, because it's going to make it really challenging to get those buses out if cars are trying to be crammed in between. So we can't stress that enough. Parent pickup, please do not come on campus before 2:35. Winter snow parking for parents. We will have more information on that in the winter, but we are expecting to be using these lots, and they will be plowed in the winter, because this is where our construction workers will be getting picked up. So, so stay tuned, but that will also be the place. We just wanted to notify our student parkers. The parking lot is different than when you left. There is no student parking now behind Gilbert Hall here. This is all staff parking. It's a lot less parking than it used to be, but all student parking are reserved to these 2 lots alone. So the students are parking in these 2 lots only. Again, just the flow. We talked about this in terms of classroom passing times. Mr. Higgins did a great job, and these are also links that provide videos to help you with one flow traffic. Again, this is only for passing times. If a student has to use the bathroom, they can go the opposite direction, but only for passing times, entering the building and exiting the building at the beginning and end of the day. And again, this is the main hallway. As you can see here, traffic is always going this way. This is up in the staircase, and then down is all the way at the other end of the hall. The main floor, you can't really use the middle stairway. Only on the bottom level you can go up, and on the top level you can go down, and they can meet in the first floor. So I think that pretty much does our presentation. Does anybody have any overall questions that have not been addressed in the presentation? This would be the time to ask them. Does anybody have any other questions? Doesn't seem like there are at this time. I think that's it for us. We look forward to seeing your students in 2 days. We've been preparing a lot for this moment. We're very excited. There was a lot of energy today in the gym, just us talking about having students in front of us. So please, students, be ready to come in, be engaged, be challenged, continue to embody the Bristol Aggie core values and the expectations. We're going to continue to increase them and raise them. Parents, please continue your part and providing us the support in order for your child to be successful. We'll do everything we can on our end to ensure that this year's learning experience is worthwhile, meaningful, challenging, and something that, hopefully gets everybody excited about learning again. So we thank everybody for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you, whether it's in person and virtual, and please be safe and take care. Thank you, everybody.